Mikee P, Mike Probosi in for another Kentucky Derby preview, prep preview in the Money Media YouTube channel. Virginia Derby this week, brand new Kentucky Derby prep on the calendar this year at Colonial Downs. And I bring in former jockey, now exercise rider, Will Humphrey, to give us, he's ridden plenty of races at Colonial Downs, so a great perspective for Will to come in and give us a little Derby prep action. So, Will, welcome back to the In the Money YouTube channel.
Thanks for having me back on, Mike. Yeah, an exciting weekend ahead. The first Kentucky Derby prep race run at Colonial, and Colonial is a great track. I think that this is really going to test the right credentials required to be a legitimate Kentucky Derby contender. We've got a strong field here of 10, and I'm excited to be getting stuck into this race with you, Mike.
Now, most people, when they think Colonial, it's very heavy turf racing, but they do have a dirt course. And Will, you're used to being around those parts. So talk about the configuration of this mile and eighth prep.
Well, this is a really unique prep in itself because this is actually going to be a one-turn mile and an eighth race, which is going to really test these horses' stamina because you have such a long run into that first bend that horses are going to be running hard and fast from the get-go, and they're not going to have a chance to switch their leads. It's going to be a real grueling race. So naturally, as we go through the runners and riders here, Mike, I'm going to be looking for horses that have that proven stamina built within them because, as I say, this is going to really test their staying ability. And the tricky thing about this race, Mike, as well, is that how the track is going to be playing, because we don't normally run at Colonial at this time of the year. During last summer's meet, the dirt course was extremely speed favoring, but at this time of the year, different weather patterns, we have no idea whether this track is going to be playing very fast, whether it's going to be slow, how management have got this track ready for Saturday's card. So it's going to be interesting to watch the Thursday and Friday races here at Colonial to really figure out how this track is playing, and it definitely brings a new dimension into this race.
Yeah, and you mentioned Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3-day Virginia Derby meet here at Colonial Downs for the spring. 50 points to the winner, so you win and you're into the Kentucky Derby. That 50-point line should be safely in this year as far as points for the Derby, that 20-horse field. Well, let's look at all the horses. We're going to do a quick little rundown here. Now, we have 10 horses in. I'm not sure if they'll all go. We're recording this a little bit early, Sunday, the week prior. So we're a little early here, so pay attention to scratches, obviously. We're going to start with the first horse, and that's the one calling card. Now, this is a Michael Maker that has raced in a couple of the preps, tried the Lecomte and ended up 8th in there. Went to the Gotham, that one turn that flood zone dominated up on March 1st at Aqueduct. Shows up here. It's a curious spot. I do think he'll be long odds in this race. Will, do you give him any chance at all?
Well, Mike, if you look back to last November, he broke his maiden by over 17 lengths in his first start on the dirt. Problem is, he hasn't backed that figure up. And quite frankly, he's been pretty poor in his last two starts. He had no real excuse in either the Lecomte or the Gotham, but he showed no early speed and no finishing kick either. I don't like the fact that Luan Machado is going to be the 7th rider to ride him in 7 career starts. That's a huge red flag for me, and unfortunately, it's going to be a pass from me.
Number 2 is John Hancock. Now, he was the winner of the Sam Davis at Tampa on February the 8th, and that form has certainly been backed up by Owen Almighty's win in that Tampa Bay Derby. That was yesterday. And now there is some talk that he may or may not be actually entered into this race. Mike Smith is listed to ride. We have Flavien Prat that rode him last time on another horse in this race with similar ownership. So Winstar owns John Hancock, owns Rapture in here. If he goes, he's speedy. He seems capable. He certainly wants to fight for it. What's your assessment of him in this spot?
Sure. I mean, he's done absolutely nothing wrong in his career, Mike. He's 2 for 2, and I loved his win last time out in the Sam F. Davies. He set a strong pace. He was met with a challenge at the top of the stretch by Owen Almighty, who actually laid all over him. He bumped him. He was down in tight on the rail. And a lot of young horses, especially horses making just their second career start, would have backed straight out of there, but he didn't. He re-rallied and got up to score by half a length. And for a first route, first stake, second start, I love the performance. Obviously, he got the form boost when Owen Almighty came back, so that instantly makes him a logical contender here. However, the track was very speed favouring at Tampa last time, which raises the question of how much was he the beneficiary of that speedy track last time out. He's going to meet a lot of pace pressure here, and the jockey booking of Mike Smith is a real perplexing one for me, to be honest with you, Mike, because Flavien Prat, as you mentioned, shows up on Rapture in this spot, and Mike Smith has only ridden 6 horses for Brad Cox in the past. So a bit of a strange one there. He's going to have to prove himself again, but as I say, he's done nothing wrong and is certainly worthy to be in this spot.
The 3's American Promise. I liked this one in the Risen Star back on February the 15th. That was Magnitude's blowout win there. He raced okay. I thought he'd be a little closer early. Was 5th early from the rail. Made a little run around the turn, but then ultimately flattened out, and everybody was left in the wake of Magnitude and Chunk of Gold. Prior to that, some decent class, nice maiden special weight win with a 95 buyer back in December. I don't know what sort of trip he gets here. I do think that he has some ability. However, I do think he probably needs to prove it. What do you think?
I agree with you that he has ability. My problem with him, Mike, is that as we mentioned at the top of the show here, this is going to really place emphasis on horse's stamina, and this horse has not really been finishing out his races very much. If you look back to that 95 buyer earning maiden special weight win in December, it came in Gateway fashion with the bug weight off. And I just feel that this horse doesn't really have the credentials to be a major player here.
Number 4 is Omaha. Omaha. Now, this is a horse that probably would be familiar to you, racing in the Mid-Atlantic circuit. A couple races at Aqueduct in his last 2, closing second in the Jerome back in January, then closing third in the Withers. Now, this one-turn configuration, I do think suits his running style. I do think he'll be moving forward late. He would be on my short list here. What do you think? What sort of setup does he get here?
Yeah, I definitely think that he has a shot at hitting the board here. He's going to be coming from off the pace, but he does have relentless stamina, or seemingly so. And that in my prediction is going to be a huge benefit to him here. You have a really nice improved by a speed figure pattern of 62, 75, 78, 80. So he's improving with each start. He's shown in the Jerome and the Withers that he's capable of hitting the board at this stakes level. And if he can continue to step forward in the way that he has done with the correct pace set up here, I think he's definitely a contender to finish in the top 3 at least.
Number 5, Studlydoright. Another one shipping down here. This one raced at Turfway last time, but has mostly been racing in New York. The Jerome ended up 4th in there, 4th in the Remsen, won the Nashville back in November as a 2-year-old. Gets the blinkers off here. He certainly has taken money in every spot. I do think that this horse has ability, but he looks very slow on paper. Needs to improve greatly, I think, to contend in this race. What do you think?
I'm not sure that this horse is trained on, to be honest with you, Mike. If you look at his speed figures, they're no better now as a 3-year-old than they were at 2. And as a 2-year-old, he was finishing really strongly in his races, but that hasn't been the case as a 3-year-old. And I feel that the other horses have maybe strengthened up, filled out, and just caught up to him. And that's nulled his finishing effort in his recent races. He was tried on the synthetic last time. That didn't really go to plan. Blinkers now come off. And I just get the impression that connections are just sort of clutching at straws a little bit with him here. I'll definitely be rooting him on. I actually used to sit next to Xavier Perez in the jocks room at Laurel, so I'll definitely have a rooting interest, but he won't be taking any of my money.
Halfway through the field here, we need a little word from the sponsor of this video, and that's twinspires.com. You got to go to twinspires.com and check out their brand new tournaments tab. Currently, lots of feeders going, trying to lead up to that Kentucky Derby betting challenge on Derby Day this year. That's a $5,000 buy-in contest with a $250,000 guaranteed pool. Plenty of seats there being given away to BCBC, to the NHC. You look at these feeders coming up here. You have Oaklawn, Parks, you have Turfway feeders, Fairgrounds. There's so many tracks, different contests that are available to jump into these qualifying wagers. And there's a $500 Virginia Derby Oaklawn KDBC qualifier on March the 15th, and that is Virginia Derby Day. So go to twinspires.com, check out the tournament tab, and get in these contests. And there's certainly lots of money to be won. They just introduced a new TwinSpires Tour leaderboard tour too, with some cash prizes. So get in on TwinSpires contest. Let's jump back into the field here. Number 6, probably the favorite here, Will, is Getaway Cards, Bob Baffert. Now, there was some talk that maybe gaming was supposed to show up for this race. This one gets on the plane here. You get Irad, you come off a win in the Sunland Derby. Probable favorite, I would say.
Sure, he's going to be favored in this spot, Mike. And rightly so. I mean, as you say, he's the proven commodity in here. And he was super game when winning the Sunderland Derby last time out. However, I just have my reservations about this horse. He hasn't proven that he can pass a horse yet, which is a concern for me when there looks to be plenty of pace in opposition. And as you say, gaming was the intended runner here. And it feels like this horse is substitute by default. Bob Baffert came out with a quote that it was too soon and too quick for some of my other horses, and so basically just ended up throwing Getaway Car in here. Now, one Hernandez doesn't show up here. You get Irad, which is obviously no bad thing, but it would possibly be a concern for me. And I just feel that if this horse is a substitute by default, is he going to be ready to run his best game here with so much pace and opposition? Obviously a major contender, but I don't think he's in any way a lock.
Yeah, he's certainly faced much better horses. Journalism, Citizen Bowl, those are top contenders for the Derby. I do think that he might be a little better than perceived, at least in my mind. But this 1-turn mount and 8th, I think, is going to test every bit of his stamina in here, and you're going to have a short price. Let's go to Rapture, number 7 here. Now, this is the other Brad Cox. You get Prat listed. Comes off a nice maiden blowout win at Oaklawn. What's your thoughts here? Does he end up in this race?
I sure do hope so, because I think that he is very talented. Finished a length behind Vassimo on debut at Gulfstream, and that's turned out to be good form. And I just love the way he went about his business at Oaklawn last time out. And if you watch the race back, he came under pressure a long time very early in the race, I should say, and took a little while to find stride, but then really leveled off late, hit the line really hard, drew away from the field, and galloped out super as well. He, to me, screamed stamina, which is going to be to his benefit here. Prat stays aboard, and although he has to come off of Lasix, I did some digging here, and with 3-year-old males who broke their maiden on debut, now trying stakes races with Lasix coming off, Brad Cox hits at 36%. He's for 5 for 14 with a $5.60 ROI. So that definitely doesn't bother me. And I feel that he could be bet pretty heavily, but I think rightly so. I think that Rapture is going to set a perfect trip from the outside, and I think he's very, very talented.
All right, here we go. All probably will be long shots in this race. The 8 Authentic Gallop. This is Tom Amoss. Certainly plenty of talent. Broke the maiden on December 13th at Oaklawn. Then just want a 1x allowance there on February 7th. The horse has shown speed in the past. He certainly bred well for stamina. Authentic on the top, Victory Gallop on the bottom, and we know he won the Belmont. So you get Castellano here. He would be a horse that I find interesting. I do think that this horse has a chance to step up. What say you?
Yeah, he's actually a half brother to Grade 1 winner Copion, who recently ran that massive 110 buyer in the Santa Monica. So definitely bred to be the part. And I really liked his win last time out, Mike. Tom Amoss took the blinkers off that day, and he finished his race off much better than in his start prior. He was in tight between horses. He showed grit and determination to get the job done, and ran a career best buyer that entitles him to play a part in this race. He's improved with every start on the dirt. You see it by a speed figure pattern of 50, 59, 68, 75, and then that 84 by last time out. He should sit a nice trip towards the outside. I don't think that stamina is an issue for him. And at what will hopefully be a reasonable price, I think that he can definitely hit the board.
Yeah, comes off Lasix here, so that's going to be an issue, but we'll see. I do think that this one could be getting better at the right time. Well, we got about 2 minutes left, so let's look at the last two. Render Judgment, Georgia Magic, both look to be longer prices in the spot. Render Judgment, Kenny McPeek, horse raced well prior to the Risen Star. Ended up third in the Gun Runner, and that was a bit of a boat race there. Has some back class with him. You get blinkers. Anytime McPeek sends one out, they're dangerous. Georgia Magic looks to be quite a long shot in the race. The top figure there is 58. Do either one of these strike your eye?
No, Render Judgment just really isn't improving in the way that you would like to see from a young 3-year-old. All 6 starts have produced by speed figures between 75 and 79. And quite frankly, I just don't think he's good enough to mix it with the top players in this race. And as much as I would love to see Sheldon Russell win this race, Georgia Magic just looks way over his head in here and will be a surprise winner, to say the least.
Well, appreciate your insight. It seems to me you think Rapture might be the horse that comes out of this race with the win.
Yeah, I really do, Mike. I think that there's a lot to like about this horse. He's well bred. He predicts to sit a perfect stalking trip towards the outside. You get Flavien Prat. And that last win really impressed me from him. I think that he's a talented colt who should get the right setup in here and can book his ticket to the Kentucky Derby. I think Getaway Car is definitely a horse that I would want to use in some way, shape, or form. It would be dangerous not to, and I'd look for Omaha to run into the frame as well at a price.
Yeah, that would be my top pick. Omaha. I think the configuration really suits him better than many of these. There's going to be a hotly contested pace, I fear. A lot of these horses are going to be tested by that Mountain Eighth. I do think that that's going to suit him, and he's a long strider. He's going to be out of it early. He's going to be moving forward late, so I would like to see him picking horses off down the middle of the track. He's bred. I think he can improve here and end himself up in the Derby gate. Well, this has been a production of In the Money Media. Check out all the videos on the YouTube channel. We're going to have a live stream covering Colonial Downs. I think Will be back for that. Maybe we'll have Michael Dallenbo in for that as well later in the week. Check that out. Thanks, Will. We'll see you guys next time.